first?
Can we go over page 37, number 5, the sentence?
Let's go through all of them. Let's start at on exercise number 5, which is the homework on line 1.
Right.
We have Hana'ara halka bahu amda. Anybody want to share what they got for that?
Sure. The family ruled and
Oh,
it,
number 1. No, the number 1. You're reading number 5.
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, 5 was the one I had the question for. Where am I, what did I do wrong there? I only did the one line.
Oh, okay.
No wonder.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, does anybody else want to share what they have for number 1? And,
I got the young woman walked and she stood.
okay, very good. Now, you see, there's that word that you were talking about, na'ara. You see
Yeah,
it?
no, I noticed it.
Oh, yeah, and it has the definite article hey, and then we have the verb halach, but it's in the feminine, so it's halcha. Right? You see that pattern that we have like this on the vowels, right?
Mhm.
Probably some room here. Okay, somebody want to read number 2?
Sure.
Okay.
The king ruled and he remembered.
Very good.
Show
Okay.
off.
Somebody give me number 3.
Sarah guarded and she stood.
Yep. You want to say it?
Shamara.
Nope. That's a silent shabas.
Yeah, I can do that. Shamra.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah. Vehi. Anda.
Yep. Very good. Okay. Let's see. Number 4. Somebody want to share what they got? It's starting with the verb, right? Ahmad. And we know that that's a masculine verb because you see the pattern right there. Right, so we know that David is the one doing it. Right, so Ahmad David, so David stood. Yep. And what's that mean, Don? And he ruled. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, now you got number 5, Mom. All right.
Okay. The family ruled and he remembered his son, or son.
And she remembered a son.
She.
Or it, she or it.
She.
Mishpacha, Malcha,
Who?
Behu, Zachra, Ben.
Who?
E.
He.
Okay, somebody share number 6.
And she is he.
You want to share number 6, Tim?
Yep. Sarah remembered a thing and a son.
Very good. And you guys see the pattern there? So we have that root, Zachar, but it's feminine, so it's Zachra.
When you have, like, the verb is always first, you don't,
Mostly first.
you don't say the verb first?
Well, we want to translate into good English.
Oh,
You know, we
okay.
want to translate into understandable
I
English.
understand now.
But a lot, not always, but the normal way in Hebrew will be the verb will come first.
And the last word survive.
Huh?
And the last word is survive.
Is what?
Who? 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 Let's see.
Ubain.
Oh.
And a son?
Yeah.
And a son.
Okay.
Yep.
Ubain.
Yep. So we don't pronounce it vu, it's just u. Ubain.
Ubain.
You want to share number 7, Katie?
Abraham heard and he remembered and he went.
Yep. And you can see all the masculine words there, so Everything has to agree, masculine, feminine, that's my word.
Would listened be okay?
Yeah, listen's fine. Yeah. So you could also translate that as that he obeyed. So the context will tell you. So we could translate that Abraham heard. We might say Abraham listened, or we might say Abraham obeyed, and he remembered, and he went. It depends. The context will tell you. Yep. Like we talked about the other day, and compared to other languages, Hebrew doesn't have really a whole lot of words, honestly. So it's one of the languages with kind of fewer words. So
You almost have to feel your way through it.
yeah, the context is like the king, right? Okay, and I'll read number 8 and someone else translate. Habahema amda vahi halcha.
Cattle or animal.
Okay. Right? It says
The animals, the cattle,
just one animal.
just one animal. Stood,
Yes.
and,
And
he,
well, she or it, yeah.
um, and they went, she went.
She went, or she walked, yep. Okay, let's look at exercise 8 for your other homework. Alright, we have Ha'av Shamar Bain Ubat. Uhi Shema Dabar Miyerushalayim. Somebody want to translate?
The father guarded a son and a daughter, and he heard a word from Jerusalem.
Yep, or a matter or thing. I think you put something, that's pretty good. That's good. Yeah. You want to make good English.
Transliterate, yeah.
Yep, we want to translate it as literal as possible, but we want the meaning of the text to come across. So we don't want to, like as we go on and you guys get good and you're translating the Bible, you want to translate what the text means, but you don't want to change what the text says. So the translator's job is really hard. When you see the different, when you guys get good at Hebrew, you'll see. So you'll hear people criticize a lot of translations, and then, you know, maybe they don't know why. Like they can't even read the biblical language, you know? So you go to the text and you're like, well, I see why they would translate it that way, or why maybe this one would. And you see others and you're like, no, man, they're telling you what they think it means. So it's a hard, I'm glad it's not my job. It's a very hard job. But you guys will soon be able to make your own informed choices about it. Okay, so I'll read the next one and someone translate. Ruth amda vahi zachra ish vaisha mimitzrayim vahi shaman el hanaar uhi alcha el hanaar. Long sentence, huh? Somebody want to try to translate?
Sure.
Okay.
Ruth stood and she remembered a man and woman to Egypt,
From Egypt.
from Egypt.
So we have that mem right there. Now we learned the word mean, right?
Mean.
From. So many
yes.
times it becomes an inseparable preposition. You just get
Gotcha.
the mem and it gets shoved onto the word.
Okay.
So from Egypt.
And she went to,
No, and what did she do?
she walked, no?
And she listened, or she obeyed, or heard.
Where, hang on.
Vahi Shema El Hanaab.
Ah,
And she listened to.
she listened to, the, the young man,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
she,
Yeah.
no,
And she halcha.
and that's where she walked,
And she walked to
to, the young man.
very good. Look at you guys reading Hebrew. Okay. And line 3, Hamishpacha amda vahi shamra bait. Uhi, excuse me, vehi malcha. Anybody want to try? You want to? You're looking at me. Okay.
The family stood and it guarded a house and it ruled.
Very good. Okay. Line 4. Shamar ha'av v'ha'isha amda ve'habat halcha el Mitzrayim. Want to give that a shot? We're getting 2 subjects in this one, okay? So trying to trick you up. You want to give it a shot, Tim?
Sure.
Okay.
These were tricky.
Yeah, they tried to trick you a little bit.
The father guarded,
Yep.
and the wife stood,
Okay.
and the house went to Egypt.
And the daughter.
And the daughter?
Yep. The Habat. And the daughter went to Egypt. That one used to always trick me up a lot with bots and bites. Okay, that was like, now we get, oh, it's actually 3 subjects in there. Number 5, Malach HaMelech meYerushalayim, Vahu Zachar Behema miMitzrayim, Vahu Halach El Mitzrayim, Vahu Shema Behema.
The king ruled from Jerusalem, and he remembered an animal from Egypt, and he walked to Egypt and guarded an animal.
Yep. Very good.
Right? That's what I kept saying, but Lee's like, you guys only know so many.
You guys, they give you like really weird sentences, but we only know.
Run-on sentences.
Yeah. Oh, no, Hebrew's like that. It's like huge run-on sentences, and it's and, over and over and over again with the boss, like, and this, and that, and. Like, you know, you're reading the old King James, they're like, and. You're like, man, this is really bad English, right? But they're trying to stay true, so that's kind of the way Hebrew's written. I think maybe modern English we might smooth that a little bit, I would say. Number 6, last one here. Hana'ar Zachar Na'ara. Hana'ar Zachar Na'ara meYerushalayim, Vahu Zachar Na'ara meMitzrayim, Vahu Halach El Yerushalayim. Do you want to give that a shot? Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
The young man remembered a young woman from Jerusalem, and he remembered a young woman from Egypt, and he went to Jerusalem.
There you go.
So he made a choice.
He made a choice there.
It's the Egyptian word.
Ditch the Egyptian. Okay. Now, no, it's kind of tough,
Yeah, he did.
but you guys keep working at it. You guys are good. You guys are reading Hebrew and translating it into English. Can you believe that? We've only been doing this 7 weeks, 6 weeks. It was very good, right? Okay. So you guys we all saw the vocabulary last week, right? Keep working on vocabulary. Don't fall behind the vocabulary no matter what. I know it's rough. So turn to page 40. And we're going to talk about plurals. Okay? So you have your vocabulary there. Now, you guys probably already know this, a little bit at least. I'm pretty sure all of you do. About making plural words in Hebrew. So let me erase here and we'll get some space. Now, we got masculine and feminine thing going on, obviously, right? So, we already learned that words are not necessarily masculine or feminine based on their quality necessarily, but really more to do with the spelling. And there's obviously some irregulars and some anomalies, but by and large, the masculine plural ending for something. Let's say this. Obviously, like in English, to make something plural, we just have like we put s or es. Almost always, right? There's those couple of sections, like octopi, weird words like that. So, in Hebrew, the two ways that we're going to do that generally are going to be with the ending im or the ending ot. Those kind of sounds, im and ot. The im sounding is going to be masculine for masculine words most of the time in a regular form, and the ot is going to be for feminine ending words. So they give us the example here with the word melech, a king, right? So if you look at the plural there, it's melechim, melechim. So you see, we have a given word like that. We'll get a hirig yod and a mem sophie.
And that's the masculine?
That's like the masculine plural kind of sounding. Okay, we have melech or melechim. They give us devar and devarim. So you'll notice that pattern. I'm sure you guys have noticed it before, where we're going to be looking for most of the time in these words to be able to figure stuff out. Hebrew's like an investigation. So you got to be a little bit of an investigator, right? So we're looking for this root. And we want to find out what happened to this root. What happened to it? Did it go male? Did it go female? Is it plural? What's the tense? We haven't really learned much about the tenses yet. But we're looking for this pattern right here for a masculine plural. So we can change from king, a king, to kings. Melech to melechim. Or devar, a thing or a word, to words. Devarim. Like, we call it Deuteronomy in English, but what is it in Hebrew? Devarim. Right? Now,
Okay, now what is that called, the plural for male?
it's just masculine plural.
I know, but what did you call it in enunciation? The
Mhm.
women was oat, or the feminine was oat. What was the other called?
Em.
Em.
Look, this pattern right here with the hirig yod
Oh, okay,
and the mem
okay.
sophie. It's like we'll have a root, right? Whatever that root is, whatever it is. Like in this case, it's melech, right?
Mhm.
Now we want to say it's melech, like that, right?
Right.
We want to say kings, so it'll be melechim. That's just like putting an S on the end of English.
Gotcha.
Now say that it's a female word, and they gave us aretz, right? Aretzot is what it's going to turn into. So this will be the female ending is the ot. It's the ot. You get a hole and bob and then a tav.
Like matzot,
Like matzot. Yep.
that's the plural of matzah.
That's the plural of matzah. Exactly. Yep. Matzot. Like we don't say matzahs, it's matzot.
I never raised that.
It's in your book.
Okay.
What do you mean it's not written that way?
It's screwed.
Oh. So, now you might say, all right, well, that word ends with the tzadi, right? So that doesn't really follow our hey, tav, or feminine ending words thing. Okay, but it's about a place, right? So normally places are going to be female. So they could have picked a better example. So right underneath that on page 41, it says feminine nouns like mishpacha. Look, they always end. Well, they don't always. It says feminine nouns like mishpacha. They end in that female-looking pattern, right? So they end in the hey, like that with the kamates. That's kind of a female ending that we're looking for, right? If something ends in a hey, it's going to be feminine, almost all the time. So what happens when you pluralize it, when you put the oats on it, so if we put the hole and bob with the tav on there to make it feminine plural, this hey drops off. Okay? That hey just goes away. It's gone now. We don't need that hey as a feminine marker because that hey is silent to start with, right? We're not even saying that hey.
Put
That,
the hay up there again, please, the way it was. It's still running.
so the hey, that hey, we don't even say the hey, right? I told you guys why the hey is there. Because the nakud comes later, right? That's marking it for people reading it without nakud that that's a feminine word, okay? We don't need that anymore. We don't need that anymore. This is not even like really part of the word. This is something that's in there so that a reader can recognize it. It's not even something we pronounce. So this goes away. We no longer need that as a visual recognizer in the text that that is a feminine word because we have a feminine ending on it now. Mishpachot.
Just a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Then, in the Torah, before there was Nakud,
Mm-hmm.
there was no H? No, I mean, no Hey?
Yes, it was there because there was no nakud.
Okay,
You understand?
okay, so we're not adding a letter or taking a letter away.
No, it's just the way the language
Torah.
works.
No, I
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's the hey is there because there was no nakud to start with. Let's put it that way. And you'll see why when we get to other words that could be, you're like, does that have to do with the man or does that have to do with the woman? But we'll know for sure because they put that hey on the end, right? So like now there's no question, we understand. Yep. So basically the hey is no longer needed. It's not even a thing that we are saying anyways, right? It's only there for a visual marker for a reader. So now, since we don't need it, we're only having the female ending. Because we look at the oats and we're like, female ending, obviously. And then you know your Hebrew, you obviously know mishpacha is feminine word. So look at the examples right there where they, underneath it, start on the right hand side where they give you mishpacha and then mishpachot. See the difference? Now look, same thing with the word behema. It ends with a hey, right? With the kamates, kamates hey. We don't need that anymore. It just goes away, and then we get the oat. Okay, the hemos. No feminine nouns ending with the taw, they lose the letter hey when the feminine plural oat is attached. Now they give you right underneath that just a regular form of masculine nouns that you've learned so far. So remember these kind of places in your book because it'll save you a lot of time in your homework when you're going to find them. So because they're already giving them to us there. Now in the back of the book, don't look at it right now, but you can check it out later. There's glossaries in the back that'll give you the correct spellings and vowel pointing of all the words in this book. Okay. So right there they show you how you get the masculine ending with the e's on there. So you have ach, which is one of our vocabulary words like brother. So we'll pluralize that brothers. This is achim. Or bain is banim. See it changes a little bit. Devar, devarim, had, harim, yom, yamin. See? You have one day yom, or you have yamin. Multiple days. Melech, melachim, na'ar, ne'arim. See, now we look at all those words. When you look at all that and it's ending with the here, yod, and mem, just you know when you look at it. It's a plural masculine. You know when you look at it, it's plural masculine. Okay? There's some weird ones, but those are special cases. So look at the female endings. Now you can see where I tell you you're going to be like an investigator looking for those root words or your vocabulary words, right? When you see that oat at the end, you see that, you already know it's a noun, right? You can't make a plural verb. That doesn't even make sense, right? Like a verb, like an action word, like walk, you know, that it doesn't make any sense, right? So you know it's a noun to start with, right? And you know it's a feminine noun. So like we have that word aretz, like we had here, aretz. And then we get the oats on the end. So when I see this in the Bible, I'm like, all right, that's a noun. It has a plural ending. All right, so it must be a noun. It must be feminine. I know that this here is the ending, right? So I'm always looking for that root right there. I'm like, oh, Aretzotes. So you'll be hunting for the roots.
So that's why our flashcards keep showing us the roots.
You'll be working mostly with roots, like later, not now. But like when you go to in the Bible, you look stuff up. You're looking up the root, right?
Yeah.
Like Strong's numbers and all that stuff. That's the root word. But you need to know how that word's used because there's many different forms of. You've learned some so far, like the roots of malach, right? We got a lot of words from that. We get melech, a king, malach, rule. The other words that mean like prisoner and all kinds of stuff like that. But they all coming from this one root. So when you look up just the root of a word in Strong's, and they're like, it means this, and they're like, it in which form?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of leads you astray a little bit. That's why we're doing this class, right?
Right.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, Yod He Vav He, what's that?
Comes from the word haya.
Okay.
So you have.
I mean, is that a feminine ending?
Well, I guess so. It's a verb. It's a verb to be. So it looks feminine, but it doesn't necessarily have to be feminine. Like we're about to learn the irregulars. Like the word for fathers has a female ending. And that's not feminine. Like avot. It means fathers. It's not avim or anything like that. So.
So there's exceptions.
Yep. So the word haya means to be, and we'll learn about that later. But it just means it's like the word to be, like am, be, was, stuff like that is. And then he told Moses in the burning bush. He says, "Who shall I say sent me?" And he says, "Eheh, Asher, Eheh." I will be what I will be. I know it says I am in English, but it comes stuff from Septuagint, which I think is fine. But it's a form of the word to be. Eheh is an imperfect form of haya, and he says that you should say this one right here sent you. Which is a form of this one, this word right here, haya, that I just exist, that I am what I am. Eheh, Asher, Eheh. I will be what I will be. I just am. I exist. The self-existent one has sent you. So he says to Moses, he says that I will be what I will be. And then when Jesus comes, he says, I am. And as he quotes the Septuagint, he said, I was, I will be, I always will be, I just am. I'm the self-existent one. So like it's a form of the word haya. And you get all kinds of strange things like sacred name doctrine from it and stuff. It doesn't have too much to know how I don't know how to pronounce it. There's so many different ways you could do it. Like you got the Yahweh thing going on now, which is pretty much just from the same Nakud for Adonai, but they just took a we'll get to that. But
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
good stuff.
Like somebody said, we all know Yah.
Right, we know that. It
We
says
know
that in
Yah,
the
that's-
Psalm.
yeah.
So we know it sounds start with that kind of sound. There's a chapter on that. You'll love it.
Cool.
Okay, so we see the endings here for the feminine ones, right? Aretz, Aretzot, Behema, Behemot, Mishpacha, Mishpachot, Na'ara, Na'arot. Well, if you're familiar with the vocabulary, easy to spot, right? Okay, so keep up vocabulary. All right, now turn the page to page 42. You got some irregular ones, or just irregular, okay? Just like we have irregular stuff in English. So you have the word ish for a man. Well, how will we pluralize man? Anashim. Anashim. You have isha for a woman. Remember I told you guys, I think in our first set of vocabulary, you see that dot inside that sheen right there? There's been a lot of scholarly papers written on that. And I think it has to do with the noon dropping away from the original word. Okay? So just look at the plural. Nashim. Nashim. See, look, we're only sharing one letter that's the same as the singular form. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay? just the way it is. You see, it's only one letter that's the same. You can obviously see there from Nashim and Anashim that those come from the same words, right? So on the word Ish and Isha, we're having a noon drop away. That's because most likely it's a word from a Proto-Semitic language. Like, that is to say, those words probably come from a language that predates biblical Hebrew. We don't know this language. Scholars just usually call it Proto-Semitic. Proto-Semitic. So if you guys remember in the very first class, when I made you guys the chart and stuff, we have Hebrew, Ugaritic, Aramaic, and all that kind of stuff. Just nice, interesting study. So here's irregular there, like I told you, avot. Okay, av, father, sounds pretty masculine. It has a masculine looking ending, or ends with the bet right there. But the plural is avot. It just is. It's like an irregular thing. Like even like in the Mishnah and the Talmuds, we have avot, the tractate avot. It's just the way we say it. So cities, that's a place, so you would expect it to be a female ending, but it's not. It's just Irim. Just is. There's some anomalies to be aware of. Now, we learned the words for them, right? In the vocabulary, or for they, Haim or Hema, and they for a group of ladies or women is Hena, right? So the M's kind of a masculine kind of sounding thing, which is easy to remember. Masculine starts with M in English. We have the Mem. Now the N is gonna be more feminine sounding, right? Hena, they. Now, what happens with the Hebrew verb? We already learned if a man does something, like if a man guards, shamar, right? Shamar. He guarded. Perfect tense past. A woman, like if she guarded, is shamra, right? You familiar with this? You understand?
Yeah. Ish.
Ish.
No, ish.
Oh. Don, tell a joke. All right. If a man did something, like we take our word shamar, right? This is what we've been learning. We have this kind of thing, right? Shamar, he guarded. It's our base form. Now, what about if it's a woman? It gets the hey and that, right? And then it gets this. Shamra. Shamar, Shamra. Okay? Now, what if it's not he did or she did something? What if it's they did something? Okay? This is where we get this ending here. Now, if they did something, now you only got to learn one. You don't need to learn, there's not a male and female thing here, okay? For they did something in the past, right? So, they guarded is Shamru. Shamru. See it there? At the last quarter of page 42. So we get, ooh, I like this piece of chalk. Look, we get the vav with the shuru on it, right? Shamru. Shamru. Look, there's your vowel pattern right there that they give you. Now they're going to use the word shamar a lot as a base because it follows all the right rules. Okay? It's like the key of C on the piano, right? Easy peasy. It goes, this is your base form. So shamru, it means they guarded. Okay, so we have shamar, he guarded, shamra, she guarded, shamru, they guarded. You see how the word kind of changes? But we still have our root word or our base word, shamar, right there. See, it's not too difficult. It's just different. So just give some time to think about it. It works with all the verbs. So we have the word. The other one they give us there is halach. Halach. So if a man did it in the past, halach, he went, he walked. Yep. Halcha, a woman did it. Halcha. Halcha is something different. I'm not sure to say that. So halcha, like she walked in the past. So what if it's they? It means like they did in the past. Halchu. Good. And you see it gives us that same pattern right there. We get that same pattern. Maybe if I put the pattern in a different color, it can help. Let's see. See it? Okay. You have whatever three-letter root it is, and this pattern means they. Third person, perfect, plural. Now look at the example they give us at the very bottom of page 42, those last three lines. Haben Shamar. The son guarded, right? Habanim Shamru. The sons guarded. You see how the verb and the subject must agree in gender and in person? So there's multiple sons that guarded. So we can't say Habanim Shamar. That doesn't make sense at all, right? Because how can, you're talking about multiple people doing something, right? So you have Habanim Shamru, they guarded. The sons, they guarded. Or we make it into smooth English, we just say the sons guarded. But just to do it very, very woodenly, the sons, they guarded. And they get the female form. You see, you only got to learn the one form of the plural, right? So that's better, right? Okay. So Habanots, the daughters, Habanots, Shamru. The daughters, they guarded. So the daughters guarded. Not too bad, right? Yep. Take a little thinking about it to make it stick in there a little bit because it's new. So on page 43 right there, they give you like a nice chart of all the plural nouns that you learned so far. So that's a nice place to be able to go back to and look at. Okay. And they make a little note there, and I think it's worth mentioning because it's in the book. But it says the plural form of anashim, we can translate that as men, or we can translate that as people in general. People. It doesn't have to be anashim. When I say anashim, I could be talking about a group of men, or I could be talking about just a group of people. Like we say, like mankind, we don't mean only dudes, right? Okay.
It's back to that, if there's one male there, it's a masculine entity. If it's a mixed group, and there's one male there, then it has a masculine.
Yeah, that would be fine to have masculine in it, yeah. Unless you wanted to make a point about it, you might make the context will tell you. But yeah, technically speaking, you could have 20 females and like 1 or 2 males, and you could still use anashim if you wanted to. It would not be wrong. So the same is with the plural form of banot. It literally means sons. So it can literally be translated sons, but it can also mean children in general. Okay? So if it's normal, yeah. So like many times when it says like the sons of Israel, it's not just referring to the male children of Israel. Like many of your Bibles will translate the children of Israel, but literally, quite literally, it says like the sons of Israel. But if you read it, it's obviously referring to not just the guys. Okay? But in contrast to that, if we were to say banot, right, we mean specifically daughters. Right? We mean specifically daughters. But if it's masculine, it could be both. Okay, now I want you guys to spend some time definitely learn a vocabulary. I want you guys to spend some time looking at the words on these pages we went over with the masculine and female endings, and have a special eye to look at the root. So even if it helps you get in like some map colors, don't use a marker, but maybe some map colors and tracing the root. You could pick like blue or something for the male and pink or red for the female or whatever you want. And then that way you can really spot the root and the endings. That might help you. And then look at the charts and spend some time just thinking about the plural ending with the oo. This here. This is not hard, but it's just kind of weird because we learned those other two forms. So I want you to be thinking about it and looking at it. So turn the page to page 44, and we're going to talk about something. Now we talked about what a preposition was, right? Does everybody remember what a preposition is? It's a positional word. So like if we have a circle, and I say in the circle, that's a preposition. Or if I said by the circle, that's a preposition. It's like a positional word, right? Around the circle. I'm gonna go to the circle. I'm gonna come from the circle. Whatever, right? Get the idea. That's a preposition. Okay, it's a positional type word. So we already learned the word mean, from, and many times it will just be the letter mem with the hirig under it, and it gets smushed onto the word, like we had in the homework, mi Mitzrayim, mi Yerushalayim, right? It just gets squished on there. Now we learned the word el means to, preposition. It's a positional, directional type word. Okay? That's why I say it, preposition is directional. And we learned how they kind of just get squished on there. Now we're going to learn, those are called inseparable prepositions. And what they did in this book is they kind of just gave you a taste of it right there with the mem, right? So you see? So inseparable preposition is going to be where the preposition gets squished on that word and it becomes part of the word. Just like the mem did in Mitzrayim, Yerushalayim, right? So they're going to give us a couple common ones here. So we start on the right side. They just give us the lamed with the shavah underneath it. They just have the lamed with the shavah. It means like 2 or 4 most of the time. 2 or 4. It's just like, well, we have the word el, right? 2. Okay? They're just giving us, it's almost like the shorthand form. Okay? It's just a lamed before. It means 2 or 4 or something like that. And it gets squished onto that word. It becomes part of the word. You have the kaf right there with the diacritical mark in it, with the shavah underneath it. It means like or as, like a king would be like kimelech or something like that. Okay, like that, or as something. These are so common. So you look out for them. Probably the most common one you're going to find in the Bible, like over and over and over again, is the bet, the preposition bet. It means in, with, or on. In, with, on.
Or starts with
Starts with it, yeah. Okay, starts with it, yeah. Better sheet, right? In beginning. Or you could say at the beginning, or something like that. So I want to say something about prepositions. So prepositions in Hebrew and in Greek, they're, as the way my teacher explained to me, they're elastic as rubber bands, okay? Real stretchy. They're very versatile. So we don't make a doctrine based on prepositions. We make a doctrine based on what the text says. And the reason why I say that, people say, oh, it was in this, not on this, or all that. Like, you're being silly. You're talking, it's not something that's solid, right? When we talk about, they say like for example, the Holy Spirit was not in people, it was just on people. In the Old Testament and stuff like that, it's like I can show you places where it was in them, like when they built the Mishkan, like in the Torah. But we don't make doctrines based on prepositions. For example, when Jesus says, when he quotes Isaiah and he said, the Spirit of the Lord was upon me. Well, I thought it was in him. Right? Okay, we don't make doctrine based on prepositions. That's all I'm trying to say. Right? So they're very stretchy. So it can be in, on, to, all these kind of things. So we get they give us some examples right there, right below. It says vowels and inseparable prepositions. The inseparable prepositions, they ordinarily take a shavah, right? They just Told you. Now you'll get real used to it. Get used to that bet a lot. Okay? So it says ba mishpach. Oh my goodness. Ba mishpacha. Okay? In a family. Ba mishpacha. In a family. We might also translate that with a family. Okay? So the context will tell you. Okay? It could mean in a family, with family. Technically, it could mean on a family. Right? That context would have to tell you that. That would be strange. So, look at the little sentence they give us. Av b'mishpacha shamar banim. A father in a family guarded sons. Okay? A father in a family guarded sons. Or you could say a father with a family guarded sons. Context will tell you. You got a question?
No, I was just translating, could you say his sons? Or is it anybody's sons? I'm just
Let me see.
wondering, you know, since we're talking
No,
about.
it could just be sons. There would be a different way to say his sons.
Okay.
Yeah, there'd be a different way to show possession. I mean, if the context shows that they're his sons, they obviously are.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to necessarily be.
Yeah,
But there's,
Jacob and his son.
yeah, I wouldn't add his sons because there's a specific way to say that
Okay.
to show the possession of that. But they very well could be his sons, but the context will tell you. Like, you know, these are just made up sentences, but I'm trying to show you, for the reason we're taking this class, is to take a closer look at the Bible. So,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
absolutely.
so that's a great question, though.
I want to change
Yeah.
the Bible.
Yeah, so if you were going to translate it as his sons, if there was something in the context that would indicate that, and you felt like
Right.
your reader needed to know that, like it was unclear, but you could see it from another place in the text, then you might consider that you would want to translate it that way, because you're giving what the text means.
Yeah.
If it's something that you can see in the Hebrew that you can't see in the English, because sometimes that happens. And they give us the one with the preposition with the kaf, kemelech, like a king. So they have David Shamar Batim Kimelech. David Shamar Batim Kimelech. David guarded houses like a king. Now, how do we know that Batim is houses and not daughters?
Masculine and
There you go. I should tell you right there. And they give us the preposition with the lamed. It's also very common. Lamoav. Abraham halach lamoav. Abraham went or walked to Moab. You could also have written that out, that Abraham halach el Moab. It means the same thing, right? But it's very common that you'll have that inseparable preposition. Instead of having a separate word el, you get the lamed and it gets squished on that word. Okay? And they give you some with the plural endings. Okay, look at where it says in some circumstances on page 44. Do you see that? Okay, it says Kim Lachim. Now, that's a silent Shabbat. I would say it though. Kim Melachim. Kim Melachim. Like kings, or as kings. Now you see your root Melech in there, right? Now you see the car crash that's happening that I was going to tell you was going to happen? You see where something got shoved on the front of that word, and then on the end of the word? Where's your root? Mem, Lam, and Kaf, right? Ki Melechim. Like kings. The next line. Ha'achim halhu ki melechim. The brothers walked like kings, or went like kings. So they kind of, in that little sentence right there, that's a good one, because he gave a bunch of stuff that you already learned. So in that first word, ha'achim, we have the definite article hey. You see it? We have our word right there that's one of your vocabulary words, ach, which means brother. And we have masculine plural ending with the here yod and the final min. So, the brothers, right? We have those three things going on just in that one word. Then we have the next word, which the root word is halach, to walk or to go, but it's plural because brothers is plural, right? So we can't say halach. It has to be halchu. They walked. Now, like kings, ki melechim. So we have our root word melech, mem, lamed, kaf. We have the inseparable preposition with the kaf, means like, right? You see it? And then we have the masculine plural ending with the im. There's a lot going on in there, right? So you got to be a little bit of an investigator to read Hebrew. Now, you can see the one right underneath it, L'Yerushalayim, okay? L'Yerushalayim. Now we don't say L'Yerushalayim, right? Look at the way it's spelled, L'Yerushalayim, because that lamed just got shoved on the front of that, right? To Jerusalem. Now look, they gave you one of your vocabulary words there in the line below it. Hema, called who, the Yerushalayim. They went to Jerusalem. They're giving you that Hema there so you can see it. Most time in the Bible you ain't gonna have that. You're just gonna have called who. You know, because you
What?
called who. Like that they walked or they went. You don't really need the Hema. It's like Spanish, right? When you don't need the yo. Is that right, Tim?
No.
You don't really need it, right? It could be there. Okay. Are we getting,
11:05.
oh, we went over? Okay, one more thing.
We started.
Yeah. Hold on, you need to know this. This is part of this. Now, we have the inseparable prepositions, right? Normally, they're going to come, we have the inseparable preposition. Now, they have the shavah underneath it normally. Okay? Now, if we wanted to say, have a preposition like in, to, or like, but we want it to be definite, like, not like a king, but we want to say like the king, or instead of saying in a house, we want to say in the house, or whatever. We're gonna simply add a tak, and the hay drops away. We don't need the hay to let us know that it's definite. And we'll start with that next week, but I just want to mention it to you. We'll look at how that works and why that works next week. So, I think what we're gonna do is, you guys are looking at me like this a little bit. So, if you want to go on and learn the vocabulary for chapter 7, that's fine. But I'm not gonna make you guys do that. I want you guys to make sure you know all the vocabulary very well that we have up to this point, okay? There's no point in doing this stuff if we're not retaining it. We're not just flying through it just to do it. So I want to make sure you guys know all the vocabulary, learn the patterns for the male and female, and recognize the ending for they, because they did something. I want you to get familiar with the inseparable prepositions. So I would like for everybody to read chapters 5 and 6 one or two times this week and become very familiar with it. You can watch a couple of videos again, and we're going to pick it right back up on page 45 right here, okay? So, no written homework this week, but that is real homework. I want you guys to work on that, because there's no sense in just blasting through this if we're not retaining it, right? Okay. All right. Very good. Let the brain. You guys are doing really good, so it is hard. I'm not gonna lie.